What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another live stream here on my YouTube channel. I'm so glad that you're here. You probably saw the title. Maybe you can relate to it, maybe not. Maybe you know of someone that wants to get into this business and they probably tell you that they're an introvert and they might not be good at sales. Hopefully in the next couple minutes I'm going to be sharing with you my story, and hopefully that will motivate a lot of you to get into prospecting, make those phone calls, knock on some doors, make the follow-ups that probably you're avoiding. But before I get onto that, let me know where it is that you're tuning in from. Drop it in the comments. I see Jersey, I see someone from Canada as well. And also, as a reminder, in case you didn't know, I'm going to be doing a 3-day prospecting boot camp. It starts next Monday, March 9th through the 11th. And I'm going to be covering everything from scripts, objection handling, communication, body language, a lot of like psychology. So if you have been struggling with converting leads, or you don't know what to say, or maybe you don't know why people are just not converting into actual listings or appointments or contracts signed, this is a boot camp that you want to make sure to join. The link and the website is dominateprospecting.com. So make sure to check that out. Once again, it's just 3 days. Starts Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for an hour a day. And I'm going to be covering a lot. So go to dominateprospecting.com. You can find all of the details there. And if you haven't joined my community already, make sure to do so as well, because I'm always posting stuff in there. Agents are always posting their wins, what's working for them, what's not working for them. The first and the third Monday of every single month, we do a mastermind, and it's completely free and open to agents anywhere, whatever brokerage you're a part of. So if you haven't joined, make sure to join the school group, school.com/prospecting. So now that, I got that out of the way, if you are an agent that's watching this and maybe you think you're an introvert, I want you to drop a 1 in the chat or in the comments, because I want to know. I want to know if you're someone like me that maybe you're like, you know what, Loida, I'm not like the life of the party, and I'm not crazy, and I'm not like an extrovert, and it gets kind of difficult for me to make calls. I want to know. Or maybe you're the opposite, right? So, like I said, in the next couple of minutes, I wanted to share my story because a lot of people think that I'm very good at what I do. And over the years, I have become, that person that excels at making phone calls and prospecting and handling objections, but it didn't come easy. So, to take you back, before I even got into real estate, so growing up, I was always a very shy kid. In elementary school, in middle school, and high school, I was a type of kid that did not like to get any attention. If the teacher ever wanted a volunteer or wanted someone to answer a question, I would be the type that would put her head down, and it's like, let's not make eye contact because I do not want to get called on. And it would be scary and terrifying. If there were any group projects where I had to go up to the front of the class, I would always go last because I just wanted to avoid it at all costs. If you would have told me even 15 years ago that I would have gone into real estate and that I would have become very good at making phone calls and knocking on doors, I probably would have thought that you were crazy, because even in college, I was not like this. So when I graduated college, I remember that one of the very first jobs that I got was working in promotions. I was working for a soft drink, a very popular soda brand, and my job was pretty much giving away free sodas. It's a very popular Mexican drink that you guys can probably guess which one it is. And that was kind of my introduction to getting out of my comfort zone. I had never been, like I said, the type of person that just, started talking to strangers and talking to people and sparked up conversations. No, for me, if I was in a new place, I'm the type of person that scopes out the place first. Like, what are people doing? What are they saying? If someone talks to me, then I'll talk to them, type of thing. So when I got this first job right out of college, that's what really kind of showed me what it was like to talk to strangers and give them something. So I was giving them free sodas. Everyone was happy and excited. And that was kind of like my introduction to marketing in the, promotions world. I went to school. I had my degree in business and marketing with a focus in advertising and promotions. And for those of you, maybe this is the first time you're watching me. Before I got into real estate, I worked in that field for over 9 years. I represented a lot of high profile clients in the entertainment, automotive, consumer brands, a lot of different automotive brands that you can think of. I was at auto shows and ride and drives. So I was doing a lot of in person, face to face stuff, right? Telling people about the products, telling them why they should buy this versus our competitor. And I loved what I did. And I never had seen myself even doing that type of stuff. So that kind of started getting me out of my comfort zone. And then it got to the point that I was traveling all the time. I was traveling 24/7. I was living out of a suitcase from hotel to hotel. And I told myself, like, I don't see myself doing this for the rest of my life. And I remember specifically in 2014, I was at the Chicago Auto Show. I don't know if there's anyone here that lives in Chicago, but I was at the Chicago Auto Show and it was negative 20 degrees. And we were doing ride and drives. And if you've ever been outside a negative 20 degree, is no fun. And I'm like, you know what? I don't see myself doing this much longer. I'm getting paid well, but I'm always away from my family. And I want to be, home. I want to be able to attend gatherings, parties, birthday parties, whatever it is. So I remember being at this auto show and I got a message on LinkedIn from a recruiter and they had seen my previous experience. I ended up getting an interview for this huge corporation in downtown LA and LA Live, which is a really great place. Ended up getting an office job, a cubicle job. For me, I thought, this is it. I made it. This is a corporate job that I've been wanting. And what ended up happening is that I absolutely hated my life working there in this cubicle with negative people. I remember the girl that sat across from me, she wouldn't even say hi or anything like that. And it was at the end of 2014 that I was like, you know what? I've seen the potential of the success that you can have in real estate. I have never really done sales where I have to talk to people or do anything like sales related. All of my experience previously was just, hey, here's a free soda. What do you think about this flavor versus that other flavor? Or, hey, this is a new vehicle release from like Toyota or Kia or Lincoln or whatever it is. So real estate was new to me, but I knew that in order for me to live the life that I wanted, I would have to step outside of my comfort zone, right? And I knew that it was not going to be easy and it was not going to be glamorous, but that's kind of that was towards like the end of 2014. I ended up working this corporate job in a cubicle for a couple of months, then ended up going to another advertising agency, which I absolutely like. I liked what I did, but the environment was just negative. And then that's when I, cold turkey went into real estate. So I did not have, like I said, any experience talking to people, making phone calls. I never had gone door to door. I remember shadowing agents and they were successful. And I said to myself, if they're successful and there's been top producers that have shown what they have done to reach the top, I just need to replicate and do what they have done, even if it's something outside of my comfort zone. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, I have recently posted, when I first started in real estate, I hated making phone calls. I was terrified when I got even like the year before I got into real estate. If you would have told me, hey, Loida, next year you're going to be doing real estate and you're going to be making phone calls, I would have laughed and I would have said, how embarrassing. Like, I am never going to do that. I don't know if any of you can relate. Let me know in the comments, but it was horrible. I just didn't picture myself as that. But I like the money that I heard that they were making. So I said, you know what? At this point, I have nothing to lose. I left the career that I was in. I got into real estate. And then I just started doing what I was told the top producers were doing, which was making phone calls, specifically going after the expireds for sale by owners and the low hanging fruit. So for me, it was totally out of my comfort zone, going into not just a new field, but doing something that I had never done before. Because, like I said, I've never been the type of person to just strike up conversations. So the very first thing also that I did my entire first year as I was working with agents is that I was shadowing them door knocking. I did a lot of door knocking my very first year. If a lot of you have never done door knocking, or maybe you've done it for like a day or two, try doing it for an entire year where you have tan lines. I had tan lines like in my neck, in my, arms right here, because I was every single day. It was very like I like to say like a military schedule. Like we start door knocking, we're calling expireds for sale by owners, follow up, prospecting again, like that's how it was. And I think for me, obviously I had my marketing experience giving away stuff and working in promotions. So door knocking was in a way much easier than making the phone calls because I was already used to talking to people in person. But this time I had no idea. I had never sold a home. I didn't know what to say. So I started learning the scripts. But what door knocking taught me was how to read body language, how to be able to see people's expressions, how to communicate with different type of personalities. Because then once I learned all of that in person, when I got on the phone, I'm like, this is so much easier. They have no idea what I look like, where I live. So if I say something and I mess up, like I'll just hang up. Or if they're not, or if they're rude, or if they start cussing at me, I'm just gonna hang up. And I think, that's something that stops many of us when we're making phone calls. We start thinking all of these scenarios in our head of what's going to happen with the person picks up. And for me, door knocking kind of helped me prepare myself, like the thick skin for making those phone calls. Because I know it's not easy and it's not glamorous. But yeah, the door knocking got me out of my comfort zone. Then picking up the phone, making those phone calls, calling the expireds and for sale by owners, which many of you are probably, I know a lot of you in the mornings when you start, you're probably still like, I don't want to do this, but I know I got to do it because I need to make a paycheck. So when I started making those phone calls, it was not easy. And I had never seen myself as a salesperson. I had never even thought about going into sales. And, because this is what we do, I knew that if I wanted the way that I would get confidence and how I would be confident over the phone is by knowing exactly what to say and also by having the responses to any type of question that someone might ask me. And maybe not so much a question, but more like an objection. Because the moment that you know how to handle objections over the phone, like there's nothing that can stop you. So for me, it was memorizing my scripts. That's the very first thing that helped me get confidence. Memorizing my expired script, my for sale by owner script, because those were the lead sources that I was going after, and also my listing presentation. Because here's the thing, a lot of us we want listings, but you have no listing presentation. You don't know what to say. You don't know the flow of how a listing presentation goes. So if you haven't memorized a listing presentation, that should be the very first thing that you need to be doing. You need to know your listing presentation. You also need to know how to pre-qualify, whether it's a buyer or a seller. I made sure to print out these scripts and I would read them and then I would write it down and then I would read it again and put it away. And then I would write down what I would remember. And that's how I learned my scripts. That was my style for memorizing scripts. I learned my listing presentation in a week and a half. And then I remember every other day, I would write it down, everything that I would remember it. Because once you memorize your scripts and you know what to say, then now you can incorporate your tonality, how you sound. So I always get agents that say, you know what, Loida, like I'm not having success. People are telling me that I sound like every other agent. You might think that, oh, I don't want to sound salesy or like a robot. This is where your tonality comes in. But first, you need to know what to say. Once you know what to say, you know how to take the conversation wherever it is that you need to take it. Once you incorporate the tonality, now it doesn't sound like a script. Now people think that you're just having a conversation with them. But little do they know that you are actually going through a series of questions and they're answering them. Carlos is asking, which is the objection that I found the hardest to master? Um, I at this point right now, I have heard so many different objections and I have so many objection handlers for a lot of them that I can't remember which one was the hardest. But I would tell you that the typical that I would hear for a for sale by owner is we don't want to hire an agent because we want to save on the commission. My family members and agents, so if I do list, I'm going to list with them. We're not going to list, but you can bring us a buyer. I mean, like all of these are the typical objections. And then for me, and for anyone that's new or maybe you haven't sold anything, is like, well, why should I hire you? or how many homes have you sold? And this is where you leverage your team or your company. So make sure that you have that information. And Carlos, I'm glad that you asked that question, because that leads me to my next thing. When you are able to start to successfully handle objections, I like to say you have to have at least 4 to 5 different objection handlers for every single objection. Because the way that I got very confident over the phone is that if they threw me the same objection multiple times, I had different responses that all led to the same, direction of hopefully setting an appointment. So maybe one of you guys wants to drop an objection in the comments, and I can tell you how I would handle it. But again, memorizing my scripts and handling the objections is what gave me the confidence to pick up the phone. Role playing as well every single day, that gets you out of your comfort zone. I'm not talking about role playing with yourself or like in the mirror. I'm talking about role play. Go find someone that's like doing very well in real estate, maybe not so much newer, but someone who's already been making the phone calls, and just be like, hey, can we role play and just be tough on me? Because if you're role playing, be tough on each other, right? Don't be doing the typical like, objections. No, you have to be real. So I would tell all of my role play partners, be as hard as you can be and give me all of the objections that you can think of. And then that's how I started to get better. And then I would hear what they would say. And then I would also watch videos. I would watch a lot of Mike Ferry videos. There's a lot of real estate coaches out there that if you're watching them, if they're handling objections or doing like role plays, you can learn a lot from them. I have done many here on my YouTube channel. So make sure that you're, watching those. But every single day, I kept getting better and better. So it got to the point that my role plays would happen before my phone calls. So 7 to 8 o'clock, I'm role playing. When I'm dialing at 8 o'clock, the expireds, I already have like a smirk on my face because I feel unstoppable. Like whatever objection I'm probably going to hear, I probably already have a response for it. And again, this made me excited to make the phone calls, because if you're prospecting and you're dialing, there's going to be times that people are not going to answer. There's also going to be times that they're rude or they're just going to hang up, or maybe it's a wrong number. Which, when it comes to wrong numbers, I mean, there's also ways that you can try and have a conversation and see if there's a lead. That's happened to me many times where I dialed the wrong person. They're like, no, that you have the wrong number. I have nothing to do with this property. And I ended up asking just questions regarding if they were thinking about doing anything, since I had them on the phone. And they actually said, yeah, we're thinking about selling a property that we have in XYZ city. So there's ways for you to turn a bad number into an actual lead. Let's see. Carlos just posted an objection. Let's see this one. I'm not going to list my home, but if you bring the buyer that would give me $1 million, I would gladly give you a 2% commission. Perfect. So when you sell this home, what are your plans? Where are you going to be moving to next? Like, when someone gives me an objection, like I don't focus it on that. I want to find out the motivation. Like, why are you selling in the first place? How did you come up with $1 million? Like, are they being like real, or are they being delusional? So it's just a matter of just continuing to ask questions, because maybe later on I'll circle back and be like, so I assume this is a for sale by owner, Carlos. So yeah, it's just continuing to dig for the motivation, and then eventually I'll come back and say, is there a reason that you're going for sale by owner? I know that you are willing to cooperate with an agent, which is great. But you do know that my job as an agent to bring you a buyer is to negotiate the lowest price in terms for them, right? And a lot of them, they're not thinking this. And by the way, like everything that I'm going over right now and handling these objections is exactly what I'm going to be covering in my boot camp next week. That's 3 days. It starts Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And it's going to be helping you be able to handle these objections, that they're not going to throw you off. Like any objection that I see is probably something that I can handle. Um, this one, Mima says, the major objection for me is when the seller asks what I can do different than other agents. Okay, well, let me ask you, what did your last agent do? Aside from, just putting it online in the MLS and this and that. Because I want them to tell me what they did. And then, the way that I learned, I would say, well, I'm glad you asked. I'm actually going to get it sold. And the same way that you're being picky about the agent that you want to work with, I'm also very picky with the sellers that I work with, because Mima, at the end of the day, if I see that I can't help you, I'm not going to waste my time or yours. So when you sell this home, what are your plans or where are you going to be moving to? So then I circle it back to the motivation. That's typically the way that I go. If they continue pressing on it, then it says, then what I would say and what I have said is, well, I do a lot of aggressive active marketing. Do you know what that is? A lot of people won't know what that is. Okay, well, aside from putting it online on the MLS and on social media, this and that, like I'm actively making phone calls, trying to find a buyer for your home. I'm also knocking on doors for the same reason, trying to find a buyer for your property. Is that something that your last agent did? Many times they're going to say, no, they didn't. Okay, well, these are just a few things. So, you know what? Let's get together. When we get together, I'll share with you exactly my marketing plan and what I'm going to be doing that's different from everybody else. But if it doesn't make sense for us to work together, I'll let you know because I'm not going to waste your time or mine. So that's how I would handle that. And usually, when you say it, you have to be very confident and then be like, okay, well, that makes sense. Because when I'm telling them that I'm not going to waste my time or theirs, like, people have this sense of like, "No, I want you to work with me." And the way that I say it makes it seem like, "Look, Mr. Seller, like, I don't need your listing, right? You need me." That's the mentality. So, again, this comes with confidence and years of knowing how to handle different objections. Hopefully, this is all being very helpful. You can drop me in the comments, if you are enjoying this. But going back to confidence, over time, just making the phone calls, talking to people, handling the objections, I would write down. If you are right now prospecting and you're getting hung up on these objections, write them down. Also utilize AI, go on Gemini or ChatGPT and be like, hey, chat, I'm a real estate agent that prospects and I go after for sale by owners and expires, and I'm getting this objection that's throwing me off. Give me 5 different ways that I can answer them that make sense and will trigger some psychological emotion on the seller. Something like that. And it's going to tell you a few different ways that you can answer it. So don't just, go based off of what I'm telling you right now, but go and utilize AI for your advantage on this. Um, Another thing, when it comes to being in sales and an introvert, I know for me, sometimes I do still get nervous as I'm making these phone calls because I have no idea who's going to answer or what they're going to say. But I have realized that sometimes you have to see it as a game, right? The moment that I switch my mind from thinking that you are bothering someone, first of all, you're never bothering someone, especially if it's expired for sale by owner, circle prospect, whatever. There's homeowners out there that need your help. So I never think I'm bothering someone. I never say, hey, I'm sorry for bothering you. No, I just get straight to the point. My mentality is I need to make these phone calls because there's a family out there that their home didn't sell and now their plans have changed. And I need to come in like the hero, like the Wonder Woman to get this property sold. Because if not, there might be some other shady agent that doesn't know what they're doing and they're going to get a listing and eventually they're going to get a paycheck. And they probably have half the skill that I do. If you are an agent, you probably have seen other agents that you're like, how are they getting deals? I am so much better than them. That's why they're probably being very consistent and just doing what they know they need to do in order to make things happen. So, again, for me, it was that switch, knowing that I needed to help these people. And I wanted to be the first one to call them. Also, this is a numbers game, right? So the more people that you talk to, the closer you're going to get to someone that is actually looking to do anything real estate related, whether it's buy, sell, invest, or whatever. And a typical, response that you might get if someone is an expired is that they might say, hey, oh yeah, you know what? We actually are thinking we're just going to rent it, right? You never want to just stop the conversation there. I want to find out, okay, well, in a perfect world, do you still want to be a landlord or would you rather still get this property sold? Because if they're like, "Oh, no, like, we would still wanna get it sold." Okay, awesome. So, what do you think stopped the home from selling this time? And now you just go back into your list of asking the questions and pre-qualifying and, just going down your script. Like I said, the more that you practice these objections, you can if you have them in front of you, the actual objection handlers, I would record myself. So you could do it in your phone in the voice recording app and just record yourself reading the objection handlers or reading the script. And then listen to yourself reading this because then it's kind of like when you're listening to a song and then the next thing you know, you're like humming it and you're saying it. That's kind of how I memorize my scripts as well. And again, when you know your scripts, when you know what to say, that's what gives you the confidence. Even if you think that, uh, am I going to sound good? Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Look, you're going to get better every single day. It doesn't get easier, you just get better. You're probably going to have tougher phone calls, but because you've been practicing, you're going to be confident. I can't tell you how many times I have talked to people over the phone or and even at listing appointments and they're like, "You know what, Loida, you sound very confident." Like it's not cocky, but it's like you're very confident. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm here. I know I can help you. You need to get this property sold and you want the best, most aggressive agent that will get the job done, right? And the way that I say it, they're like, absolutely, like this is a girl that I want to work with. So again, you can't be shy in this business. If you're shy, there's going to be someone, maybe it's going to be me, and I'm going to come in and, you know, first impressions are huge when it comes to these sellers, and you just never know who you're talking to. So again, hopefully everything that I'm sharing with you is making sense and motivating some of you because I've seen a lot of agents that have a lot of potential and they end up leaving the business or they end up not doing something as simple as making a phone call because you start putting all of these different scenarios in your head of what might happen or what people might say, and it might be the complete opposite. I'm going to share with you another story. So recently, by where I live, there's a for sale by owner, and I've been seeing this sign, and I had been holding off on making the phone call. But one day earlier this week, I said, you know what, I'm going to call them. I call the for sale by owner, and if you call Fizbo's, you know you probably are thinking, okay, they're going to tell me they don't want to hire an agent, and they might be rude and all of this information or ideas. So I called, they didn't answer. I left a message. And by the way, when I call for sale by owner and they don't answer, I just say, hey, this is Lloyd. I was calling about the house on Main Street. Give me a call back when you have a chance. That's all I say. So anyway, the gentleman called me back and we had like a 20-minute conversation. And long story short, he told me he was super nice. Turns out that he is an investor. He owns multiple properties. He owns land that he's developing. He has more listings that he's going to be putting up on the market. He has family that are agents, but we had such a great conversation. Ended up meeting him today. Again, continue the conversation. And this was a for sale by owner. He's like, look, some way or another, like we're gonna make money together. And for me, it's like I want to get to know a person as well. I'm not gonna go hard for the close because some people like if you go too much, you kind of blow them off. And you kind of have to know how to gauge the person that you're talking with, if that makes sense. But again, this was a for sale by owner that was super nice and probably deals are going to come out of it. And it all happened just because I picked up the phone. He said he was only getting calls from investors and no agents were calling him. So if you're an agent that thinks too many agents are calling FISBOs, they're not. Agents are not calling FISBOs and or expireds. So that's an opportunity for you to go after. Um, what else? Again, rejection, right? Rejection is a big one. If you're not used to it, you're going to be like, what did they say? Like, I'm really good. Why don't they pick me? Right. So, the way that I would see rejection, or when someone tells me no, or F off, or stop calling, first of all, I can't control how people answer on the phone. They might be happy, they might be sad, they might just be going through something. I remember even door knocking and a homeowner opened the door and they were like, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you right now. One of our family members just passed away. Like, I'm not gonna stay there and ask a bunch of questions. I'm gonna move on. Again, you can't control how people are gonna respond, but you can control how you respond to what you hear. So I never let someone's emotions get to me because I have no idea what they're going through. They were not expecting my phone call. I know that I'm there to help them, but they were not expecting me. So if they're upset or they yell at me, I don't take it personal. In fact, I like to laugh. I have a mirror usually in front of me when I'm making phone calls, and when I get people like that, I'm just laughing. I'm like, okay, next. That person was rude. That means the next person really needs my help. And then that's kind of what I would tell myself. The more rude people I got, I'm like, okay, I'm probably gonna get like $1 million listing with the responses that I'm getting this far. So again, it's reframing it. Don't take it personal. You can't control how people are going to respond to you, but you can control if you're going to let it affect you. Are you going to stop making those phone calls? Because what if that next person was going to be your listing appointment? That happened to me many times. I remember one of my very first listings that I got was an expired listing. I had been calling all day. My goal was always to do a minimum of 30 contacts, if not more. I remember it was around 4 o'clock and I was at 29 contacts, and I had been getting so many rude people the entire day, and I was ready to give up. I'm like, I got 29, I'm good. Like, I talked to a lot of people, but there was a commitment that I hold myself to. And maybe you need to hold yourself to a higher standard to actually stick to doing what you say you're going to do. And I said, no, I told myself minimum 30. And that last phone call, or that 30th phone call that I did, it was an older gentleman. He was very upset. He was like, oh, all you realtors, you're like vultures just wanting listings. And typically, when someone's really pissed on the phone, but they'll stay with you on the phone, it's because they were really motivated to sell, and something happened. So I went along with it. I'm like, "Oh man, you sound really upset. Like, what happened?" And if you heard me right now, that's exactly how I sound. You heard my tonality. I just asked an open-ended question. And he said, "Oh, well, I had my home on the market the last 2 years, and the agents, they lied to me and told me that they were going to be able to get me 2 million, and it didn't happen. And now I am stuck with this big house, and I have to keep going up and down the stairs." So when he said that, I'm like, this man needs to move. As pissed off as he is, he needs to move because he's an older man and he just told me that it hurts going up and down the stairs and he needs to downsize. So I kept asking questions. I pre-qualified him and I said, what price are you looking to sell the home for realistically? Like, are you looking to downsize? What's that time frame look like? Long story short, ended up setting an appointment, got that listing, got it under contract, ended up finding a buyer for it, sold the property, and he ended up moving and was super happy and excited. And again, this was one of my last calls after having a bunch of rude people on the phone. So you just never know who's going to be on that call that you just don't want to make. Um, Question: do you fast before prospecting to have more energy? No, I've never not fasted. I like to work out and make sure that I eat healthy, but I've never like fasted on purpose before I prospected. I like to make my phone calls standing. So I have like a standing desk when I'm making phone calls to make sure that I have, energy and things like that. But no, I haven't fasted. I don't know if anyone here has. And is it okay to drink every time I prospect? Like an alcoholic drink? I mean, at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want to do. I personally do not drink, period. I wouldn't recommend for you to drink. I want you guys to be healthy, live a long life. But every person's different. Some people drink to get through the day. If you have to drink to get through real estate, maybe this is not the career for you, because then you might become an alcoholic or something. Oh, coffee. Okay, good. I'm glad that you cleared it up, Carlos. Drink coffee. Every time, I drink coffee every day. So I think for the most part, we all drink coffee. So thanks for clearing that up. I'm glad that it's not the other way around. But yeah, I mean, I drink coffee. Um, or energy drinks, whatever gives you energy. As long as you can stay committed and do what you say you're going to do and get through the day. I know some agents drink like 10 cups of coffee a day. Some people don't drink coffee, they drink tea. Whatever floats your boat and works for you, just do that. All right. Well, guys, I'm going to start to wrap this up soon. So if you have any other questions or maybe any other objections, right now would be the time. And like I said, I wanted to do this video because there's so many agents, maybe, or people that are thinking about getting to real estate and they're like, oh, well, you know what? I'm an introvert. I never really go out there. Like, am I even going to be successful? Listen, sometimes the people that are extroverts are the ones that are worse in this industry because they talk so much that they talk themselves out of an appointment, or a seller's just turned off by them just being so loud and out there. If you're an introvert, or someone that's more like mellow, low key, there's so many advantages, I feel like, because I'm a great listener. If someone's talking, I'm listening and I'm taking mental notes. I'm writing down what they're saying, what's important to them, and people love when others are listening. So, at the end of the day, listen, it's not going to be easy, it's not going to be glamorous, but there is so much potential for anyone. And really the last thing that I want to leave you with is that I've never been a fan of labels like introvert or extrovert, because I know that if you, for example, if you classify yourself as an introvert, I guarantee you when you're with your friends and your family, you're not an introvert. You're probably not like quiet in a corner. You might be the life of the party, right? But sometimes we tell ourselves we're this certain thing when that's not our reality. So for me, when I'm with my friends and my family, like I'm absolutely not an introvert. You'll see me, bumping music, karaoke, like dancing around. So again, sometimes in this business, you just gotta switch it. It's almost like you're acting, but that's what's going to help you get out of your comfort zone, have that confidence. And look, just go back to my very first videos on my YouTube channel. Like you can tell that I was bad. Yeah. Look at my for sale by owner live call. It was horrible. If you ever watch me making phone calls, and I'm going to be doing something very soon in April that hopefully you guys will be able to tune in. But when I'm making phone calls, I'm very animated with my face. Depending on what I hear, you'll see me like make all these different facial expressions because that's what helps me also be able to deliver what I want to say in a way that is impactful. So, thank you guys for being here, for asking questions. Carlos, I appreciate you asking questions and also clearing up that you drink coffee. Mima too. And yes, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure that, if you need help with converting, with objection handling, pre-qualifying, check out the Dominate Prospecting Bootcamp that I'm going to be doing. Again, it starts next week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's only an hour a day, but it's going to be jam packed. It's going to be a very small group. So it's going to be very hands on. DominateProspecting.com. And also, if you haven't already joined the school community, the link is right there. With that being said, I will see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Have a good one. Bye.